I'm Hannah, this is Piles of Books, and today I'm going to be sharing my February reading wrap-up. Okay, so I am in a bit of a different space today. This is our, kids' room / schoolroom area, and I am so close to being able to share a tour of our shelves up here, but it's not quite ready yet. But I'm washing laundry downstairs, and my wash machine is kind of broken and very loud. So I thought I would come up here because I also love this room and talk about my books for today. So overall, I did have a really great reading month in February. Now, side note, I am filming this on Wednesday the 28th. It has been my plan for the last few weeks to film this video on the 28th, and then I realized yesterday that this year February actually has 29 days, so you'll have to forgive me. It's not fully the end of February yet, but we're going to pretend like it is because I'm only going to have time to finish one more book anyway, so I will talk about that one, and we're going to call it good, and I'm going to try to not let my brain twitch about it the whole time. Okay, so let's get into the books. Alright, so I had a favorite book, and I'm going to save that one for last. We're going to start with a book that I haven't quite finished, and that is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. So I am getting close to finishing this one, but it hasn't happened yet. Like I said in my TBR video, I had actually started this one back at the end of October, I think, and then I only read about half of it, and I set it down, and so I wanted to get that one finished this month. And I am really enjoying this book. Now, spoiler, I do know how it ends, even though I haven't finished it, but I don't know how we actually get to that point. I should be finding that out here, either tonight or tomorrow, and I am excited to see how this story wraps up. So this story is very tumultuous, I think is a good word to describe it. Of course, the times were they were the best of times and the worst of times. It was very tumultuous to be in England and France during this time, and I think that Dickens has really captured the pulling from both sides, just all of the turmoil that was going on. I think that he has really captured it in this book. So, I've read some of it in the physical book, but then I've also listened to a bunch of it. That has just seemed to work better for me because I've been kind of busy. But I do plan to finish actually reading the physical copy of it because that is what I prefer for fiction books. And so I don't know how much I want to say about it just because, like I said, I don't fully know how it ends. So I may just talk about this book more at a later date, but I am liking it a lot. So the first book that I actually finished in February was Hannah Coulter by Wendell Berry. So I am very glad that I did decide to reread this. I completely know why I liked it so much the first time. And so in this story we have a woman named Hannah. She grows up quite poor, and then when she graduates high school, she just feels like there's really nothing left at home for her. So she goes out on her own with her grandma's help, and so she does end up, getting a job, working for a nice company, lodging, with a nice older woman. It just is working out really well for her, and she gets married. They hadn't been married for very long, just a matter of months, before her husband gets drafted into World War II, and then he does end up dying while he's overseas. And so then she is a young widow expecting their first baby, and just the whole situation is really sad. Her in-laws take excellent care of her and just help her in whatever way she needs. And then she does end up marrying another man, Nathan Coulter, and then the rest of the book is them building a life together. And it was very sweet. It was also really sad. I got so attached to these characters. So there were a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and I really feel like that's kind of the theme of this book. It was good. It was really good, and I am excited to read more of Berry's works because this is the only one that I have read, but I am anxious to dig into some of his other books. The next one is Letter to the American Church by Eric Metaxas. So I liked this book. This was good. It was really short. The font is, it's not huge, but it's not small either. And in my opinion, Metaxas is just a really engaging writer. So the only thing I didn't love about this book is kind of his really like America-centric view. Although, he is writing to the American church. So in some ways it does make a lot of sense, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite part. So this is largely based on the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer and all the things he tried to do for the German church at the beginning of World War II. And obviously that did not work out well for him, but so Metaxas references him a lot, and like Bonhoeffer's own writings and things, so that was interesting. I have not read his biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, but my husband has, and he has shared a lot with me because that book impacted him quite a bit. So I am like totally familiar with the story, but just seeing like some like really specific events in Bonhoeffer's life and specific things he was trying to do for the German church and all of that was it was really good, and I did like this book. So it's not, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody, but it is a good one. Okay, the next one I have to share is A Biblical Home Education by Ruth Beichi. So this was as good as I was hoping it would be. All right, so this book, I did read it cover to cover, but and I'm glad I did that. I would recommend it, but now that I have done that, this is a really great just reference book. So there's like a chapter on reading, writing, math, teaching history, teaching science. I definitely feel like if I could only have 5 homeschooling books, this would absolutely be one of them. Again, it was an easy read. She's a very engaging writer. I guess the only thing maybe that I didn't love was, again, like I should have known this going into it, and it's fine. It's A Biblical Home Education. I personally do not think that everything that we have to do in our homeschool needs to be tied to the Bible. Now, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing to do that, but I don't think like it has to completely be tied to the Bible. So obviously, like, that is kind of the point of this book. And it was superb. It was great, but like, I don't totally feel that we have to do that. Okay, next is Your Mind Can Heal You by Frederick Bales. So I read this. This was my like natural health book that I wanted to read this month. All right, I've got a lot to say. I'm gonna try not to drag this out. So overall, this book was really good. It was very much a chew the meat, spit out the bones sort of book. There were a lot of good things in here. However, it was also really weird. So this is definitely like, I'm going to keep this book. I'm going to reference back to it. There are plenty of things for me to take away, but I'm not like going to recommend this book to everybody that I know. There are tons of tabs. This book was good, but it was also kind of weird. So overall, like the whole premise of the book is just, how we can like, the things we think can affect so much of our lives, mostly like he's talking about like physical illness. And so, carrying around bitterness and anger and all of that, like how it can affect us in different ways. And I totally believe that, like, I'm completely on board. However, like his like execution of all of the thoughts were just kind of out there, but it was good. Okay, next is I read the Book of Tobit from the Apocrypha for the Literary Life Reading Challenge Biblical Times category. One of these days I'm going to be able to say that a lot faster. Anyway, it was totally fine. Like, it wasn't profound in any way. It was fine. I will probably go ahead and read more from the Apocrypha later on, but for right now, I'm calling it good with reading the Book of Tobit. Yeah, it was fine. Okay, the last book I want to talk about was my favorite book of the month. Probably my favorite book of 2023. Or no, probably my favorite book of 2024 so far. It was so good. It is The Lady of the Lakes by Josie S. Kilpack. This is the true love story of Sir Walter Scott. Okay, there is so much to unpack with this book, and again, like, I don't want to totally give it away. I don't want to drag out this video forever because I absolutely could with just this one book alone. But this was so good. Okay, so we start out with young Walter. He's an older teenager in the book, and he meets a young woman named Mina Stewart. She's from an aristocratic family, and he falls head over heels in love with her. She, welcomes his flatteries and his letters and his attentions and all of this, and she totally, seems to have fallen in love with him. So their relationship goes on for about 5 years, and the whole time her parents are not really in favor of it, so they kind of keep it a secret because he is below her station. So they do eventually, once she kind of comes of age, they do convince her to broaden her horizons and just get to know other guys. So of course she does, and of course she falls in love with another young man who is a friend of Walter's. So it's kind of a double stab in the back. And how she dealt with telling Walter was truly heartbreaking. It was so sad. I cried in the middle of the book. So, for the first part of the book, we have that story going on, and it's kind of told from both of their points of view, although more so from Walter's. But then there is another young lady, Charlotte Carpenter, who is a French orphan with kind of a not great background, and she had been taken in. She and her brother had been kind of adopted in a way, kind of just taken in by an English nobleman. And then, the brother, they grow up, the brother enters the military and moves away, and she kind of just feels like she's mooching off of him. And as she's getting older, she's, becoming more like spinster age. And so she decides that she also just wants to be independent, and so she doesn't have to rely on him so much. And anyway, so she's dealing with all of that, becoming an independent woman and learning everything that goes along with that. And so at some point, Charlotte and Walter's paths do cross, and she almost becomes the one who got away, but he saved it in the nick of time. So, I cannot praise this book enough. It was so good. It is kind of funny to me that I read two, first love versus best love books in the same month. I don't really know why that happened, but I'm glad it did. I'm mostly glad that I read this book. So anyway, yeah, this was fantastic. I highly recommend it. It was just lovely. And it ends with him writing the book, The Lady of the Lake, which is the only Sir Walter Scott book that I've read, but I read it at the end of 2023, and it was my favorite book of 2023. It was so good. So I was just happy for that. Charlotte is French, so her accent is kind of not a big theme in the book, but it was kind of it was brought up several times. I didn't really like sometimes she would have the accent when she was talking, and then other times she wouldn't, so I felt like it was just kind of random. And then too, there were just random French words and even some Scottish words thrown in. I don't know, there just wasn't really a consistency with when or where or what kinds of words, so that did bug me a little bit. But absolutely, it would not stop me from reading this book again or reading anything else by this author. It was just good, and it was so heartwarming and endearing, and I don't really know what else to say about this book. It was really good. So I believe that this is considered biographical fiction. This is a true story. This did really happen, but obviously not every single detail is probably true or exactly how it happened. So I would like to find a real like biography of Sir Walter Scott. That would be, I'm very intrigued. So anyway, enough about that book. Just like take my word for it. It was great, but don't take my word for it. Go get yourself a copy and read it because it was, oh, so good. Okay, so that is all I have for you today. So these are just the books that I read in February. I would like to share the books that I, like the chapter book read alouds that I do with my kids, but that'll be in a separate video at some point. So please let me know in the comments what you read in February, if you had favorites or ones that were, you know, not so favorite. And if you have a biography of Sir Walter Scott that you recommend, I would love, love, love to hear, because I'm going to be looking for one like right away. All right, well, thank you for stopping by, and we will see you in the next video. I'm not sure what my little guy is yelling about. Love you. Bye. Okay, where was I? Yes, okay.